Now, the BBC plans to slash 1,000 jobs and warns that more cuts are yet to come. The British broadcast giant is having to reduce its budget by a huge £1.5 billion by 2017. It says the extreme measures are because more people are now watching and listening to programmes online, and demand for traditional TV sets is in sharp decline. And that's a problem for the BBC because it's funded by a government-imposed licence fee payable by every household that has a TV receiver. Well, let's bring in investigative journalist Tony Gosling now. Tony, is this just the BBC's problem, or are all broadcasters, will they have to tighten their belts as soon as possible, really, as people increasingly turn to those mobile devices?
Well, it's not just that, no, because actually Rupert Murdoch's empire is expanding. But, I mean, I have to feel a bit sorry for the poor old BBC. They've been on the back foot, and including when I was working there, really ever since 1987, where Margaret Thatcher and Victor Rothschild sacked the last really independent-minded Director General, that's Alistair Milne. And ever since the 2008 bailout, also they've had 8 or 9 years now of cuts. They're also hamstrung by the BBC Trust, which is dominated by Rona Fairhead from HSBC, Roger Carr from BAE Systems, the arms manufacturers, right at the top of the BBC. So it's not an easy time for them. But this announcement here is actually in some ways quite a good one. And I've spoken to some of the unions, Bectu and my journalist union, the NUJ, and they're saying that these cuts, it looks like, will be amongst senior managers, S1, 2 and 3 grades, which means, in a way, that's actually very good for the programme makers, potentially anyway. It means that I mean, none of the programme makers want managers breathing down their necks. And also, of course, if you're getting rid of a manager, you're saving a lot more money than you would be getting at people who are lower pay grades. So I think that there could be something good come of this. But one thing I don't like when I hear about the BBC is talk about the word efficiency, because actually efficiency is not necessarily what we want. It can end up meaning lots and lots of hours of programmes, but not such good quality. And the benefit the BBC over the years has had over its competition, like the Murdoch empire, is quality, not quantity.
How much sympathy do you think audiences will have for the BBC and these cuts? Because there have been protests over its alleged bias in coverage of events, hasn't there? A lot recently with the Gaza war, and you know, after the election, during the election, they were called out for having this left-wing bias as well. How will the audience react, do you think?
Well, Tony Hall, the Director General now, really needs to have a good think about this struggle that's going on between the private broadcasters like Murdoch and the state broadcaster, the BBC. What I think, should be thinking now is we need to really produce quality programmes that the audience are going to support the BBC more. I mean, then the audience then won't be thinking to themselves, well, we want to evade the licence fee. They'll be paying it more happily because the BBC are delivering, as they used to 20, 30 years ago, really good investigative programmes. I mean, for example, with HSBC, the bankers and the arms industry on the trust of the BBC needs to really, I think, be making investigative quality programmes which are investigating the banks, the arms industry, the security services, things like the murder of Jill Dando, one of the BBC people. So they need to get a bit brave. And then I think the public, and actually many politicians too, will support them in this fight that they're going to have an ideological fight between private and public sector broadcasting, because Rupert Murdoch is not going away. As I said, he's expanding. The BBC needs to take him on and beat him with support of the public and the politicians.
OK, an interesting time lies ahead. Tony Gosling, investigative journalist, thanks for coming on to RT International this hour.
Thanks, Union.
A look at the spread of violence across America is up next, right here on RT International. Stay with us.